Welcome to Last Week on Earth. I'm your host, Louisa Magnussen. This week, the royal family has been in the news even more than usual. The scandal surrounding Prince Andrew has resulted in him no longer using the title of Duke of York. King Charles has also made the headlines with his visit to the Vatican, where he prayed with the Pope, the first time an English monarch has done this in 500 years. Joining me today on Last Week on Earth to discuss the monarchy from a reputation and crisis management perspective this key week is Fractional Communications Director and founder of Onyx Media and Communications, Anne Cantelo. Welcome to Last Week on Earth, Anne. How are you? Thank you for joining me.
I'm good, Louisa. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Let's dive in. Can you briefly outline the key stories in the media this week surrounding the royal family?
Well, we discovered that Prince Andrew had been communicating with Epstein a lot longer than he claimed to have done in the BBC interview. And as a result, the royal family have now decided he can't use the title Duke of York. It may mean that they take other titles away, but at the moment he just doesn't use them. So we're looking at a situation where Parliament may have to take action and give the King powers to take titles away. But at the moment he is Duke of York, but he can't use the title Duke of York. The other story in the media is a bit more positive, which is Prince Charles went to the Vatican and has prayed with the Pope. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's nearly 500 years since English monarch last did that.
Now let's talk about the royal family. Do we still need a royal family? It's a topic that I feel, particularly different age groups, can feel quite strongly about. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and I think we all go through a sort of journey with the royal family in the UK. We start as children that they're princesses and it's all very romantic and magical and everything like that. And then as teenagers and young adults we think, this is ridiculous. Why do we need a royal family? You know, inherited monarchy, inherited head of state, that seems completely out of touch with the modern era. And then gradually as you get older and you understand more and more about how the system works, somehow as ridiculous as it seems, it actually works really well. And it seems crazy to break something that works. What's
the place of the monarchy in the modern world? It's not how it used to be. They perhaps don't have the power they used to have. What are they for now?
The head of state. So whatever we did, we'd always need a head of state. So you then have to look at the alternatives. And the biggest advantage of the royal family, which I think is being shown up really strongly at the moment, particularly in France and in America, is that something like Trump couldn't happen in the UK because the systems are there through the royal families to stop him. And the same problems in France, where the president is doing all sorts of things and passing all sorts of things that you couldn't do in the UK. So by the fact that all our services, the government, everyone swears allegiance to the monarch and not to the government, not to the constitution, but to the monarch, it means the monarch's there to stop things. And because we make them quite rich, they haven't got any incentive to actually be bribed. So there's less incentive for corruption. They have a long history of understanding what's going on. If you think in the last 50 years, the biggest issue we've had in this country was probably Liz Truss and her budget.
She's been mentioned on the show before.
Yes. Is it a coincidence that was the week that the Queen died, and there was all that disruption in the royal family? Every single prime minister we've had, even those that are really strongly Republican like Wilson, goes in thinking this is crazy and ends up saying actually it's really useful, that those visits to the monarch every week are incredibly useful. The monarch, one of the things they do is they have a lot of paperwork, which sounds crazy, but all the laws and everything. So they have a history, and Prince Charles, as he was, would have had access to those papers for a long time too, and the Queen for decades. So they knew all that time everything that's going on. So what they would have said to Liz Truss, if there was someone there, would say, hang on a minute, we've done this before, this doesn't work, or have a look at this, or speak to so-and-so. And every Prime Minister has said, without revealing what's said in those meetings, that is incredibly useful. So if our Prime Ministers are saying it's useful, I think we should listen.
The royal family has a reputation for never complain, never explain. You're in PR. Is that an effective PR strategy?
I think in the old days it was, yes. Now I'm not sure. If you look at the last 50 years, they've done incredibly well. I mean, the Queen never really put a foot wrong. I think Princess Diana's death, yes, she got it wrong. Meghan Markle a little bit, she got it wrong. But overall, she's never really got it wrong, which is incredible.
When you say got it wrong, you mean from a PR
yes,
perspective, from a reputation perspective, from a crisis management perspective?
Yes, from a PR perspective. She's not really got it wrong. She's, as I said, Princess Diana's death, I think she did a bit, just occasionally. But someone who's that prominent in the public eye to so rarely get it wrong is absolute miracle. So she's done incredibly well. The problem is that in a modern day, if you don't say anything, that vacuum is filled by someone else. And I think what we saw when the Princess of Wales was ill, the problem that she was ill, and there were all sorts of ridiculous stories flying around that, they'd replaced her, they killed her off. I mean, it was absolutely insane, to the extent that eventually she had to sit there and make a video. And even then they said it was an imposter. So,
deep fake.
A deep fake, yeah, deep fake. I know, I saw that a lot. I mean, when people were speculating and saying the flowers wouldn't be out, and, people from America, it was insane. And I think that showed that if you don't say anything at all, there's a vacuum that's created. So you do have to say something sometimes.
And if the firm were a client, is that the kind of advice you would be giving them now? Tell the public what is going on, make sure the truth is out there, and don't allow the public and whoever it is to come up with these ridiculous stories. I mean, how do you really stop that?
You can't. I mean, in this day and age, you can't. You just can't.
In the world of self-publishing and the fact that everybody's talking
everyone's
everywhere.
A critic. Everyone's a critic, yeah.
Everybody thinks they know what they're doing and how to do the sort of jobs we do.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone thinks they understand PR and they don't.
Yeah.
And that's extraordinary. I think I would advise caution in changing too much, because it has worked for them. But they have to step into the real world a little bit, and they have to address some of the issues sometimes and make it clearer. I think they need to address things like how they're funded a little bit more aggressively as well, because the stories about that are quite crazy. But I think one of the things they're incredibly clever at, and actually I bow down in absolute respect for the royal family's PR, because they do an incredible job. What they do, which I don't think most people realise, and it's very obvious once you start to see it, is if there's a problem, if there's a negative story, they put out a positive one, and a really positive one. If it's minor, suddenly the Princess of Wales will be in a spectacular dress, gold or something. She pulls it out every time. I'm sure she keeps it for those occasions. When there's really bad stuff going on, they do some amazing things, like with the Platinum Jubilee, we knew the Queen was really ill. We now know she was dying. At the same time, Prince Andrew that scandal was really, his dirty head was all over the place, and all the problems with Prince Harry. So they had 3 massive issues. What did they do? They got a tiny little boy, not more than a toddler, to sit for hours. And everyone knew. I mean, poor Princess of Wales, she must have thought, no, he can't, he won't sit still, he's a menace. You can imagine what her arguments, and they say, yes, it will distract everyone.
Yeah.
It will distract everyone, and that's what it did. No one talked about that. All the papers talked about was Prince Louis and his antics, and that's exactly what they planned on doing. And we had Prince Andrew this week. Is it a coincidence that he's with the Pope? King's with the Pope this week?
Yes, that does seem interesting timing, doesn't it? A horrendously negative story everywhere. And then this huge thing with the royal family, because it's been over 500 years, I believe, since the English monarch, worked with the Catholic Church. Is that correct? They went Church of England and sort of pulled away from Catholicism, which is the reason it's been so long since an English monarch did this. So, I mean, but then, I don't know, I'm sceptical about what you say, because it must have been in the calendar already. Did they know? How did they know? How do you match that timing up?
I think what happened, probably, I might be wrong, is that they had a visit to the Pope planned, which the Queen and other monarchs have done. But they came out with this, do you know it's 500 years since they prayed together? Let's do that.
See.
I think it's a magic trick. It's like magicians, stop looking here, go and look over there. Let's pull something out of the bag. Because they do it every time. Now you know it. You will look for it. They do it every single time. Every time there's something negative. And this is where Prince Harry got it so wrong.
And his ridiculous
yes.
book. Sorry, Harry.
In his book, which people have read, he doesn't understand PR and Meghan doesn't understand PR. But if you are part of a government, a company, whatever it is, your reputation is damaged by anyone. So if the finance director...
Within that company.
Yes. So if you heard that the finance director of X company had stolen money, would you trust that company anymore? If you found out that finance director had been accused of inappropriate behaviour, would you trust any of them? No, you go somewhere else. And the same is with any company. And the royal family in the end of the day, as a company. So the idea that they would deliberately damage the reputation of one of their number in order to enhance the reputation of others is nonsense. It just doesn't happen. That's not how PR works. You cannot harm the reputation of anyone in your organisation and expect your reputation to be better. It isn't, it's worse.
And do media crises like what we've just discussed, the fallout from Harry and Meghan, Prince Andrew's scandals, does that permanently damage the brand in this case? Because you're saying it can be very damaging to a brand. You wouldn't use the same company again if there was a scandal involving the director. I agree with all of that. With the royal family, is this just testing its resilience?
Yes, but the royal family have been through crises before, many crises. I mean,
forever.
Yeah, I mean,
since King George, was it King George V, first went on the radio and became an entertainer.
Yes, but even going back before that, Edward VII, the Duke of Clarence was believed to be Jack the Ripper for a while.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, he was. Edward VII had numerous mistresses, which caused all
King
sorts
Henry
of
VIII, he was pretty wrapped up in scandal, wasn't he, in the Tudor times?
Even in modern age, we had Edward VIII with the Nazis. I mean, I think that's probably the worst scandal to ever come out. So I think they can survive, but they have to be clever about it, like any company does. And companies can come back. There's a very simple process for coming back.
Admitting.
Yes, it's acknowledging, admitting, apologising. So Prince Andrew with that interview, that's the most fascinating thing. Because I came out of it thinking, good grief, he must be innocent. Because it was so awful that you think no PR would have recommended that. Like you say, I'm innocent, therefore I don't need a lawyer. Or I'm innocent, I don't need a PR. And I think I came out of it like that because it was obvious what he should have done. So if I go through it, what he should have done, he should have started by saying how heartbroken he was by the horrendous experience of those young women, the girls, in fact, no more than children.
He hasn't done that at all, has he?
No, he's never
shown no compassion towards the so-called victims.
No sympathy. No, nothing. That's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is you say, I'm absolutely mortified and so ashamed that I continue to trust Epstein. I just couldn't accept that a friend could have done those horrendous things. It is an appalling thing to have kept, in touch with him and given him some credibility.
Considering the royal family and their PR department, which must be a very big and well-paid department full of professionals, why didn't they guide Prince Andrew on this, or did he just ignore them?
Well, the insight I've seen is that he kept it secret. He didn't tell anyone. The only people he knew were
that he was doing the interview.
Yes, and Princess Beatrice said it was a good idea because you've got Sophie Rhys-Jones, the Duchess of Edinburgh in that family, who ran a PR company. She would have advised not to, or advised along the lines I've said. I mean, the other thing that I don't understand is that he has a personal bodyguard, he did at the time. So all he actually has to say is, I'm not someone who can walk around without a policeman following me everywhere.
Yeah.
Or I wasn't at the time. So the police, the American police, the British police can interview my bodyguards, go through my calendar and see I wasn't there then. And then that would be the end of the story. And the fact he's not done that.
Does it already, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Let's go back to Prince Harry. How should, from your PR professional perspective, how should they handle Prince Harry? Will he and Meghan ever stop, how do I put this, complaining?
Probably not. I mean, their currency is going to die out over the years.
Yeah.
Who knows who Princess Alexandra is, or if you go back the royal family, the brothers and sisters slowly fade out. So that is his fate, and he knows that. But he's running out of ammunition because he said everything. There's nothing more he can really say, and the royal family know that. So the don't complain, don't explain is sort of working with him, that we just won't say anything. Why bother? He's never going to get what he wants. He doesn't understand. He's never understood. And he doesn't understand that talking to the press was always the absolute number one, you do not cross that line. Because as soon as you cross that line with the royal family, they'll never speak to you again.
That must have really angered the Queen particularly.
I just think, and that's why the British public, a lot of them will never, because she was a dying old woman. And that's the other thing I haven't mentioned, is that the soft power of the royal family is huge, and I mean huge.
Do you mean, when you say soft power, do you mean that they're in the hearts of a lot of patriots?
Well, President Macron, when the Queen died, said how heartbroken that she was the Queen of the world, and that's how the world tends to see our monarchy. And the power of that cannot be underestimated.
The Danish Queen, Marguerite,
yes.
Yeah, she cancelled her jubilee that week.
Yes.
In honour of Queen Elizabeth.
And heads of state love coming to our country to get the whole, the royal experience.
Even Trump, who famously walked in front of the Queen.
I know.
All the etiquette. Oh, Trump, learn some manners, honestly.
That soft power is incredible. And she has done incredible things behind the scenes. And the King, I think, has more of a problem because he hasn't been there so long and he's not the grandmother. But it's still...
He's a quieter character, isn't he? He sort of likes his gardening and keeps to himself a little bit. Would you agree?
Yeah,
which means he's not as impressionable on the public, opinion.
No.
What do you think? Finally, we've got time for one more question. Prince William has been in the news recently. He did that interview with the actor from American Pie. I can't remember the actor's name.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean. From American Pie.
American Pie. He loves the American Pie films, which makes him very connected to particularly my generation.
Yeah.
He's my sort of age, a little bit older. But he's mentioned changes to the monarchy and how it works. What do you think's coming? He hasn't really said what changes are coming. What's your opinion there? And how's he going to do in the future?
I think Prince William, because he's Princess Diana's son, will have a lot of warmth from the public. So I think he'll find things a little easier than Charles. Plus the fact he's got a lot longer reign. Charles's reign is obviously going to be short. However long he lives, it's still going to be short, much shorter than the Queen's. And I think he understands things enough and has enough respect to make sure he changes what needs to be changed, but doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, I suppose. That there has to be some magic to it. I think if we just had them all, dump all the robes, dump everything, dump the coronation, I think it loses the magic and we wouldn't have heads of state wanting to come here. So I think he has to be careful not to throw the magic out. But I think it's right that he finds a way of making it a little bit more accessible. I mean, one of the things the Queen got right, and William gets right, but I don't think Harry ever understood, and Meghan certainly didn't understand, is that we don't allow our royal family to have a good time. So they can't be seen. They can't be seen on some beach or yacht, or we get upset.
Or wearing a particular outfit from a particular time in history that's perhaps not very appropriate.
No, exactly. We expect them to be very Puritan, I suppose, really, and to lead Puritan lives. They can't get to enjoy it, which is why I say they're not rich. Because to be rich is someone you can, go off on holiday, you can buy what you want, do what you want, splurge, do what you want. They can't do what they want.
They have great wealth, but not riches,
and
not
also
richness in life.
And no privacy. Can you imagine you can't do anything, can't go on holiday without everyone putting their cameras on you?
I certainly wouldn't wish for it.
No, I think it's an absolute curse. And that's the other thing I would like to say is, I think one of the changes that need to be made is that it shouldn't be assumed that the eldest son or the eldest daughter becomes the next monarch.
Okay, should be the best man or woman for the job, you think?
Well, also, it's slavery, isn't it? Isn't the last remnants of slavery? You force someone to do a job and you don't allow them to do what they want to do, and you pay them, yes, but not in a way that they can spend the money. So shouldn't we actually say, okay, this is the roles we've got to choose from. Who wants to do it, and who would be best at the job?
I like that idea. That's interesting. I don't know if that will ever happen, but you never know. I think that's interesting. I think you should write a letter to King Charles.
I just think the idea that poor Prince George is being forced to do it. And it also ends the whole thing with the next in line getting quite resentful, because we had that with Princess Margaret, we've had that with Prince Harry, and we've had it with Prince Andrew. The next in line always seems to be a problem. But
they don't know what their role is, do they? They're confined to all of the rules and expectations of being a royal. But they're a spare, Harry's book was called Spare, wasn't it?
I know, but, the Americans took it that it meant it was spare body parts for William. I do think that should be looked at, because we've been very lucky. I think we were lucky with the Queen. I think we were lucky with Prince William. But it could be that someone comes along who's just not suited, or it could be that Prince George really doesn't want to do it. And you can't force someone. And I think the idea that you create a constitutional crisis because you don't want the job you're born to do seems very unfair.
That's a really interesting perspective. One thing I'd like to pick up on before we wrap this up, we mentioned President Macron, and we actually did French politics either last week or the week before. I believe it was last week on Last Week on Earth. I was interested in what you were saying and the fact that the royal family, perhaps, forgive me if I get this wrong, but almost a buffer between right wing and fascism kind of taking over in the death of democracy. Is that what you were alluding to?
Yes. Yes, I think people who disagree with this argument say it didn't happen in Italy, but our constitution is very different to the Italian constitution, and the monarch is there and can act as a stop they can stop things happening. So even if someone's prime minister, they can stop them. So they could stop Trump pulling down the White House without any permission, because it's, you know, he sees himself as president, all powerful, and the monarch is there. So they don't have any power in their rights, in their own right, but they're there to protect the British people. They can stop anything from happening if they need, and I think they have. I think there's always an assumption they don't.
At the end of the day, you need their signature, don't you? The government
Exactly.
needs their signature to pass anything. Is
Exactly.
that right?
Constitutionally, nothing can be done. I think the best example of this recently was Gordon Brown, Prime Minister, a few years ago, where he took ages to leave number 10. I mean, absolutely ages. And there were headlines, you know, questioning this.
Get out now.
Yeah, it was quite funny. And I don't think he was doing anything except taking his time to try and sort out whether he could do a coalition or not. But say he didn't leave. Now, in a lot of countries, that would cause a real problem. If you had a president, I know he's prime minister, not president, but if you had someone who wouldn't leave, what do you do?
Engage against squatters' rights.
Exactly. And Trump, you know, there is suspicion that Trump will say, I'm not leaving. So what do you do?
Yeah.
But in the UK, he's gone, because the Queen or the King, whoever it is, will simply say, you're not prime minister anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and we can throw you out. You know, the military can come in and throw you out. So there is that protection, and I don't think we should underestimate how important that is.
Fantastic, and it's been really interesting to talk to you today. That's all we've got time for on Last Week on Earth for this week's episode. And Cantelo, thank you for your time. We'll be back with episode 6 next Friday on your favourite podcast platform. Search Last Week on Earth, like, subscribe and download to keep up to date with our weekly discussion, delivering sharp analysis on the world news agenda. For now, I'm Louisa Magnussen. Thank you for listening. Thank you again, Anne.
Thank you, Louisa. It's been lovely talking to you.
And to you. I wish you all a good week.